Matthew chapter 11. Matthew chapter 11. And verse 1. Matthew 11:1. Matthew 11:1. The Bible says, and it came to pass when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto them, Go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, the leper are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whomsoever shall not be offended in me. And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitude concerning John, What went you out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, that they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet, for this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist, notwithstanding he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. See? God gave me this message, and I had to really step back and pray and try to get some clarity, because it's a message, it's a fact, it's a story in the Bible that I had a hard time getting a grip of throughout my whole life. John the Baptist, and his story, that we know that he was, his mother was pregnant with him the same time Mary was pregnant with Jesus. We know his father was named Zacharias. His father doubted that he would be born. God had to close his mouth, make him where he couldn't speak until the baby was born, and then he named the baby, and then the baby grew up. He was the cousin of Jesus, and like I said, 6 months older than Jesus. And then he was prepared by God throughout his life. He was prepared by God to make the way of the Lord. He was prepared to go ahead of Jesus. When Jesus began to start his earthly ministry, John was sent to make, the Bible said, to make the way straight, to tell everybody the Lord's coming. The day of the Lord is at hand. The Messiah is on his way. God's sending his Son. The Messiah that was promised, he's coming. And as he stood in the River Jordan baptizing the people, Jesus come walking up and he said, Behold, the Lamb of God that taketh away the sin of the world. There he is. There he is. There's the Messiah. That's Jesus right there. And then Jesus stepped out into the river and asked John to baptize him. And John said, hey, I have need that I be baptized of you. I don't need to baptize you. I need to be baptized by you. And Jesus said, no, you got to do this. That's the scripture to be fulfilled. You have to fulfill the scripture. And Jesus didn't have to be baptized, but Jesus had to be baptized because of prophecy and because he had to set an example for those that come after him. those that accept Him as Messiah. Anybody that comes to me, and say, well, I know I'm saved, but I really don't want to be baptized. I go, wait a minute. It gives me a perfect opportunity to say, hey, Jesus saw fit that He had to be baptized. Now don't tell me that you think you're greater than He. Jesus Himself was baptized. Of John, someone that's much lesser than what Jesus was. But He demanded that He be baptized. So you don't have any excuse. You have to be baptized. It's a command of the Lord to be baptized. It's not part of your salvation, but it is because of your salvation. Because you were saved, you are baptized. Now here is another little tag I'll put on to that. God bless them. My daddy and I were taught that you had to be baptized in running water, in a creek or in a stream or in the river or something, or your sins couldn't be washed away. The water washes your sins away. Well, I was taught that all my life, and I believed that until I was taught by God that baptism, and I'm not making fun, I'm just saying it's a fact. That's what we were taught. That's what we thought. That's what I thought. But then I found out that the only thing baptism is simply symbolic of what has happened to me spiritually. I have died to my sin. I have died to myself. I was buried and I was raised again, a new creature, set the example of what had happened to me. That's what baptism is, simply symbolic. And you can get baptized. I baptized an old lady in the bathtub. Why? First off, she couldn't get in the baptistry. She was not physically able to get into the baptistry, and she wanted to be baptized. And I told her, sure. Her and her daughter and her son was all right there, and we baptized her in the bathtub. Simply symbolic of what happened. And she just as baptized as I was, and I was baptized in the creek. So it's simply say I baptize people in the swimming pool. I baptize people in the ocean. I baptize people in their bathtub. I baptize them in the baptistry. I baptize them in a teacup if they can get in it. But they got to get all the way under. That's the only thing. If you can get all the way under in a teacup, I don't care. I baptize you in a cup. So, but that's just simply symbolic. Totally immersed, dead, and raised again a new creature. But John baptized Jesus. And now, I want you to think of once Jesus literally came onto the scene, John was gone. John was arrested by the king. He told the king, you the fox, you the devil. You the one that's causing the problems in Israel. Sleeping with your wife's daughter and everything else y'all got going on up here. And he said, throw him in prison. And John went to prison. And then John here, listen, John had to be having a pretty bad day. He was the one that preached the Messiah onto the scene. And now he was in prison. And as far as I can tell, he hasn't done anything outside of the will of God. He's simply done exactly as God's led him to do. He's been Johnny on the spot. He's done exactly what God has led him to do. Now, the reason that I ponder the story in my mind is this. Sometimes we, as Christians, when we become so righteous, a lot of times we take the wrong stance in different situations as they arise in life. Life's hard to understand. And we need to be not so quick to jump the gun in saying that we have the ability to see what God sees. And we are so sure that this person or that person, by what they're doing, is not following God. Because you see, what we would have automatically done, and we just said, well, John was the devil. See, he's in prison. Jailbird. Convict. He ain't done a thing. He hadn't even done anything outside the will of God. He simply followed the Lord. But we would assume that if we walked, by the prison cells, jailbird, 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 in our judgment, and we would have felt vindicated. We would have felt okay with how we had judged that person, but we would have been totally wrong. Totally wrong. See? So, and I'm not saying, that we should not make judgments of ourselves and say, I can't do this and I can't be around this kind of person, I can't be around that kind of person, I can't do that. I do have to make judgments in my life about how to conduct myself, but I don't always have to judge other people in their motives. Now, I can judge their actions. I can tell you right now, and a lot of times we get to where we assume the place that we can judge their heart. And you can't judge anybody's heart. You can't judge anybody's heart and get yourself in trouble trying to judge somebody's heart. But what I tried to understand was, how did John feel? How did John feel? How do you feel? When sometimes you're trying your best, or you feel like you are, you feel like you're trying your best to do God's will, to follow the Lord, and it doesn't turn out like you thought. I guarantee you John wasn't standing in Jordan baptizing Jesus and said, I'm going to jail. He wasn't thinking that. He wasn't thinking that. He said, Lord, I'm going to do my best to follow what you said do. If you said I got to baptize you, I'm going to baptize you, Lord. And he wasn't standing there saying, I am doing so much wrong that I'm going to get caught and thrown in jail. Certainly not. So, I want you to think about sometimes it don't come out like you thought it was going to. But, you know what? I believe about John, if he had a foreknown that this is going to get you put in jail and your head cut off, bud, he'd have done it anyway. He'd have still done it. You see what I'm saying? But I don't think he foreknew that. I don't think he had foreknowledge of that. He thought it was in the will of God. He was doing the best he knew how to do. And it didn't turn out good. It didn't turn out good. Let me get on this just about 2 or 3 minutes before we go. I'll get back to you. I'm very worried in our Southern Baptist Convention and looking over the notes and things that were accomplished in Dallas during at the meeting, at the convention for this year, and voted in a new president and all of that, made a lot of changes and a lot of changes coming. A lot of changes coming. And we'll just have to judge it as we go, but I can tell you right now, as pastor of this church, I won't follow them out into the dark. I just won't, and I will make recommendations as to what we should do as a church if they continue to become more liberal and more liberal and more liberal. We can't support that when they begin to ordain women as preachers and pastors, when they begin to ordain the gay and homosexuals, when they begin to accept that, and I can't do that, and I'm really just waiting right now to see what their official statement and stance is going to be once this new president takes office, and I just can't. We can't, I can't, as a pastor, and I can't recommend it as a church. to move in that direction. So they have not made their official statement and stance and creed as to what changes are going to be now. I know the man that now is president, much younger, different generation, a whole different way of thinking than the typical Southern, the traditional, typical Southern Baptist. And I'm not saying stick with them just because of tradition, but listen, there's some good traditions. There's some good traditions that I believe in till now that my daddy believed in and his daddy believed in and his daddy believed in before that. That were right things, and just because they were tradition didn't make them bad. You know, but then there's things that we have to separate from, and there'll certainly be things we have to separate from if it comes to asking us as a church and as a denomination to support, like I said, the homosexual lifestyle and begin ordaining them and women to preach and pastor churches, and I can't do it. I just can't do it. So that's just a little caveat I put in there for you to be thinking about. And you can go online and you can look at it. You can look at the Southern Baptist Convention in Dallas and see what happened and read a lot of the notes and the letters and the statements that a lot of them made, you know, and you kind of get an idea yourself. But if they move, you know, that way, then we certainly have to make some decisions. But John said, hey guys, listen, I truly believe that was the Messiah. I believe Jesus is God's answer. I believe he's the one that was prophesied about. I believe he stands in our midst. I believe he's the one that will save the nation of Israel. I believe he is the true Messiah. But my God, will y'all go check with him and make sure I'm right? Or do we look for another? Because something ain't going right. The king's going to cut my head off at daylight. So would y'all not ask Jesus if he is the true Messiah? Or should we look for another? They took off to Jesus. So John's doubts are warning us all. We all should be warned. John's birth and life, miraculous. His birth foretold by the angel. His ministry prophesied by Isaiah. John's ministry demonstrates the power of God and God's approval. The dove came down and lighted upon Jesus, and the voice of God spoke from heaven, and this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear you him. That's God's Son. God spoke it from heaven. John's doubt proves we must all be on guard against unbelief. Jesus didn't allow that to happen so John wouldn't believe in him anymore. I don't understand everything about it. But John was allowed to go through that not to discourage him and get him to quit. That wasn't the purpose in it. That wasn't the purpose in it. And it's never the purpose in it. But don't think every time that you think you're following the will of God and you're doing everything you can do, that it has to turn out exactly as you had planned, or God missed the mark, or God messed up, or God didn't come through. That's not true. Because I would have said, me in the flesh, I would have said, hey, God, somebody go tell God. They're going to cut my head off. You know, as I seen him coming down the hall with the big butcher knife, I'm going to go say, you know, somebody go tell God. I'm finna get killed down here. And I want to make sure if I'm going to die and my head's going to be cut off, that I'm doing it for the right reason. Jesus said, go back and tell him, it's me. Two-part question. He said, art thou he that should come? Or do we look for another? He said, if you're him, come on with the knife. If you're the Messiah, if he is the one, tell him to get back with me quick, because I need to know. They coming down the hall here. But if not, tell me quick. I can see if I can get out between these bars. Slide out of here before they get here with the butcher knife. But if he is the one, I'll stand right here. I'll stand right here. And I'll proclaim him till I see him in glory. Or I'll start looking for the other if he's not. Depression is a terrible thing in this life. And it has grip on so many people in this world. And you say, well, you know, I know depression is an issue. You can just get over that. Listen to me. There's some people that can't get over that. There's some people that actually have a physical, medical reason. There is an imbalance in them. I know God can fix anything and everything anytime He wants to. But we cannot overlook the fact that they are people that live on this earth that have chemical imbalances. And they are doctors that were put on this earth to help us through those things. And every time it's not sin in their life or wrong acting in their life that causes them to be carried to that place. I'm telling you, depression, anxiety, those things are real. Those things are real in this world. And there is help for them. There is help for them. And I'm not saying that's always the answer. But I think you should check with God on it. John was terribly depressed. If not, he would have never said, go check and see. He said, because I may be worried about nothing, but I'm worried. You know? I really am worried. So go find out and see. So you're bothered today by this troublesome twin of depression and anxiety that oftentimes robs the Christian of the blessing that God intended for him to have. And it's not God's will. It's not God's desire. And He wants us to overcome it. I'm going to find this last one. John's doubts were to be overcome by looking to Jesus. Jesus said, go tell him he's okay. I am the Messiah. I will deliver him. Well, He didn't deliver him. How do you know? How do you know? He could have made that slice across his throat like eating watermelon if he wanted it to. He could have been the greatest, well, it was the greatest thing that ever happened in John's life. Because when he woke up in the presence of the Lord, the next sight he saw was Jesus standing there. So it was the greatest thing that ever happened, though it was the most terrible thing that we ever saw. See? So, okay, was it the most terrible thing we ever saw, the greatest thing that ever happened? Both. Both. Oh, you can't say that. I'm going to tell you what. If anybody can, I can. Because cancer was the worst word I ever heard. Especially when my name was in that sentence. When I go out there to get my gallbladder checked and I come wake up and everybody's crying and my wife's standing over there and the doctor saying, it ain't your gallbladder, you got cancer. That's the worst thing I ever heard. And now, probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me. To be on this side of it and look back and see what I see. And now know things about me that I never knew. I never knew these things about me. Now, I certainly never knew those things about some of those other people that I had dealt with in their lives. And they told me about their cancer and their dark days and their terrible pain and their terrible discouragement and depression and the feeling that they were feeling. And I pat them on the shoulder and I say, I know what you're talking about. I didn't even come close to knowing what they were talking about. I had no idea. But now I have a little smidgen of an idea of what goes on during that time. Won't y'all be much in prayer for the folks that we did mention in our prayer request now, because there's some hurting people. But you know what? That's every week. Every week we meet and lift up these folks for prayer. There's another group for next week coming that they're going to be going through some stuff then too. You know, so let's be much in prayer. Father, as we close, I thank you, God, Father, that you can assure us, God, you are the real one. God, you are the answer to our prayers. Lord, without Jesus, we wouldn't have a chance. And he'll always be there for us. And he's always there to rescue us. Maybe not the way we intended, and it didn't come out like we thought it was going to. But God, we trust you. We trust you and we love you. Let us see folks saved. Let us see our church grow, God. Lord, let us see our people get set on fire, Lord. And God, as we move towards Vacation Bible School and the tent revival coming up and all that's out ahead of us, and our revival here at the church is going to be going on. God, just set us on fire, Lord. Prepare us, God, to be used by you. And let us see folks saved in every instance, Father. And we'll praise you for it in Christ's name.